Good day, everybody. Oh, guess I'm not quite ready. Don't have my overhead light on. Can't really see much, but that's the way it goes. So, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, however it could be. Let's get my hellos out of the way to begin with. Early. We have Cosmin. Good day. Joe Haney from across the pond. We have Corey Dorable, Kelly Aquariums. Good day, ma'am. Matt from Liquid Zoo. Good afternoon. And Amisa, good day to you all. The birds and the bees. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about, I got my live stream here going on here. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the birds and the bees, a little bit about reproduction in fish, different modes of reproduction. It's evolutionary process and things of that sort. If you are subscribed to, what's his name now? The Secret History of Fishes, Alexander Williamson, he actually just did a live stream on sex and gender in fish. He used examples from both wild fish and aquarium fish. In other words, things that happen in the aquarium. I'm going to talk about just about things that happen in the wild, things that happen in nature, because things that happen in the aquarium sometimes aren't always the way it is. Things work differently in an aquarium. You're stuck in a little box. You're stuck in this glass box, no place to go, nobody to see. Sometimes animals react differently than they do in natural situations. So, as a reminder, the raffle drawing, as the banner says, will be Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 8th of April at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, since we're in daylight savings time. Whatever that time is for you, that's what time. So basically, right, the same time on Saturday. It'll be a short stream. We'll talk a little bit. Maybe I'll bring someone on. Maybe I'll have my wife on since, she's part of this. I will see. Maybe I haven't confirmed this with him, but maybe I'll bring in last year's winner, Alexander Lerner, to talk about his experiences to begin with. And then we'll have the drawing at the end. Good luck to everybody. We had a total of 120 tickets sold. So if you bought one ticket, 1 in 120. Someone bought, I believe, 6 tickets. So their odds go up a little bit. It's not like the lottery where you buy one ticket and you have 1 in 3 trillion chances. If you buy 2 tickets, you get 2 in 3 trillion chances. The odds go up much more when you buy more tickets when you only have 120 tickets sold. So in that case, let's get started, and hopefully I will have everything in order this time. I brought up everything before I've even started the stream this morning or this afternoon. So again, I'm just looking at StreamYard right now, so I'm not sure if who's here, who's not here. If you come in, please say hello. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Share it, do the likes, do whatever you got to do. Dislike it. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not making any money off this. I'm not with I appreciate all my 670 subscribers, but none of my streams are monetized, so let's just have fun. So first thing let's talk about is you have fish in your tank. how what do fish use to choose a mate? You know, you have 6 angelfish, and they say if you have egg layer 6, gives you about a 50-50 chance of getting at least one male and one female out of the group, and hopefully they will pair off and spawn. So what do they use as an indicator to choose their mates? Well, for most fish, it could be, you know, a couple different things, but the most common things that fish use as an indicator of a good mate is color. This is really indicative in guppies. When we think about guppies, we think about those fancy guppies. You know, fancy guppies are so inbred that, you know, you're forcing them to mate with who's ever in the tank. So there's really not as much of a mate choice as you think. In terms of fancy guppies, you know, the mate choice may be based upon the size of the male, the size of the delta tail, the size of the veil tail, whatever. But in wild systems, in wild guppies, females use color as an indication of good genes in a male. So all animals, all organisms, especially fish, humans, you name it, reproduction is all about maximizing your genes in the next generation. Those are the winners. The winners are those individuals who have more genes or more offspring in the next generation that are able to spawn or successfully spawn themselves. So what you want to do is you want to choose a mate that gives your offspring an advantage over all others. Well, in guppies, this is going to be color. And yes, Joe Haney, fish can see color. There's been numerous studies done to determine the color spectrum that fish can see. It really has to do with the amount of rods and cones that they have in their eyes. Rods and cones work just the same way in all animals as they do us. The cones are used to sense color and clarity. The rods are used for black and white. So the more abundance of rods or more abundance of cones in their eyes, the more colors we believe they can see. If color was not important, or if they couldn't see color, there'd be no reason for fish to expend as much energy into the chromatophores, into taking on these bright colorations as they do. So yes, we've looked at eyes, or not we. I hate when people say we, as in the science, but I did not do this study. Other scientists have done the studies on fish eyes. So guppies, female guppies choose males based upon oranges, reds, and a little bit blue. Blue is much more difficult to pick up in the environment. So the blue colorations, natural blue colorations are difficult. So reds and oranges, those of the carotenoid pigments. Now, why carotenoid pigments? Why are they choosing males based upon that red-orange color? What it is that the males, or all fish in that area, pick up these carotenoid pigments from the invertebrates, primarily the shrimp and the other crustaceans found in the water. Crustaceans are hard to capture. So if you want to ensure your offspring are good at capturing fish or capturing their prey items, you choose a mate, you choose a male who has that ability. And this red coloration It's called truth in advertising, that this coloration truly is an indication that the male is good at capturing these prey items that are high in carotenoid pigments. And it's genetically based, so you're transferring those genes to your offspring. Hello, Jenna P. Now, there's a confounding variable here, and that confounding variable is that in guppies, the more colorful the guppies are, or the males are, the more likelihood that they're more likely that they're going to be picked off by predators. So what you're doing then is you're not only choosing a male through those bright colors that are good at getting food. If you're choosing an adult male based upon that red color, you're also choosing a male who has the ability to avoid predation. So you're going for a double whammy there, a double goodness in your offspring. So your offspring are going to be able to capture good prey, and they're going to be able to avoid predation. Now, what do you do if you're not a colorful male? We'll come back to this a little bit later, but you know, with guppies do a lot of strange things. They have sneaker males, males that aren't as bright, who sneak up to females and sneak copulations. If we look at these are gonopodiums of different piscillid fishes, guppies, mollies, swordtails. You can see at the end of the gonopodiums, many of them have hooks. And so what they do is, as the male inseminates the female, he's scooping out these spermatophores from any previous males. So in this case, they're in direct competition with all the other males. Now, guppies are highly promiscuous. She breeds or mates with as many males as possible. So she's hedging her bet. She's hedging her bet in that one of those males is going to be a good male, going to have good genes. And there's not much she can do about the males who are the sneaker males, because they'll go up and copulate with her without her consent. I won't use the R word, but that is how it's been described in the guppy literature. So it's uncontrollable copulations. So in the case of the guppy mosh pit, like the peas have at their house, that's a whole mixed up idea. But normally what happens is, when you get a lot of different guppy types breeding together, it all works its way back to a very common guppy type. But it's pretty spectacular that they're able to maintain all those different guppy varieties in their guppy mosh pit. So kudos to you, Jenna and Stephen P. Remove. Now, another way that fish use color is, if we look at some of the African cichlids, the Malawi cichlids, where the males have egg spots on their anal fin. And it's not that the female is choosing the males based upon their egg spots or those egg dummies. In those situations, what's happening is that there's probably an overabundance of egg predation going on, or has gone on in the past. And the female, as soon as she lays her eggs, she's scooping up her eggs. because she does not want those eggs to be eaten. Everything she has done up to this point has been geared towards reproductive event. So what they eat, where they live, everything about their life history is geared towards reproduction. That is the ultimate. And so she does not want her eggs to be eaten. So in many cases, she's scooping up the eggs even before the male has a chance to fertilize the young. So after she's done laying eggs, those eggs are still unfertilized. The male lays his anal fin on the nest. She sees those egg dummies, thinks they are eggs she has left, and then will attempt to pick up those eggs. And in so doing, the male will fertilize the eggs that she has already picked up. So it ensures that the eggs are fertilized. And by having them in her mouth, by being a mouth brooder, she ensures that her eggs will not be eaten. So even though they're using color to reproduce, it's not like the female is choosing the males based upon their egg dummies. What most of the time these fish are using is females are choosing males based upon their territory size. And in many cases, especially in cichlids, territory size is based upon the size of the male. So the larger the male, more likely the larger his territory is going to be. A larger male means good, robust male. So by choosing a large territory, the female is choosing the larger males. Now, again, what are you going to do if you're a small male? You're not big enough to compete for a territory. And what happens is a lot of times these small males are found around the periphery of the larger male territories. And they may take on the coloration of the female or of a juvenile individual. They don't want to take on the colorations that you see in breeding males because the male will then try to chase that male away. So they take on the appearance of a juvenile or of a female, which in some cases is the same color. And when the female enters into the male territories to breed, that small male will follow her. And before the other male, the territory male, has a chance to fertilize the young, that small male will attempt to fertilize those eggs. Now, even if that small male is able to get one egg fertilized, that's still 100% better than zero, because by not having a territory, he has zero chance of fertilization. So these sneaker males may not fertilize all of them, but no matter what they fertilize, how many they fertilize, it's to their advantage. So it may be next year he becomes a larger male and he then has a territory. Or if he dies before he reaches that, he still has some reproductive output during his life. Now, Joe, it's not a learned behavior per se. It's just a behavior that occurs because they can't have a territory. They aren't big enough to have a territory. And again, the life of those individuals, of all animals, is geared towards reproduction. So the reproductive drive is so strong that that male, that small male, sees a chance to get some reproductive output. It's similar in sticklebacks. Male sticklebacks tend to build a nest out of twigs and stuff. The territory holder has a bright, in many species, has a bright red belly that indicates, I'm ready for reproduction. The female, he entices the female to come into his territory. She goes into the nest first, lays her eggs. he will then follow her and fertilize the eggs, and then will then defend those eggs. You also have sneaker males in those populations as well. Smaller males that follow the female. The male may think, ooh, I get 2 females for the price of 1. But by the time that small male enters the nest, the other male realizes that it's not a female, chases him out. But in the meantime, he's fertilized 2, 3, 4, maybe 50% of the eggs. So it's to his advantage, to the young small male's advantage, to stick around the largest male's territories, or those territory holder males, to try to see if they can sneak copulations. So, does size matter? It's always a story we're always told. Here is swordtail, very common freshwater fish. There was a study back in 1990 by Alex Vasello, who showed that females are choosing male swordtails based upon the sword length. So they gave females choices of males with normal shaped tails, enhanced tails, in other words, longer tails that they, glued tails on them, cut tails. The females could will actually show a preference in videos of males. So they could really manipulate this system very well. And it showed overwhelmingly that the females are choosing males based upon their sword length. The reason being is it takes a lot of energy to produce those swords. And the longer the sword is, the harder it is for that male to swim. So if you have a strong male who's supporting that long tail and he's swimming perfectly fine, that means that male is strong, energetically strong, physically strong, evolutionarily strong, and genetically strong. So he's showing all the traits that you want your young to have. So in this case, size does matter. Bigger is better, but it does come at a cost. So there are other things that fish utilize to choose a mate. Probably the strangest way, and unfortunately, this just came to my brain right now, I didn't even think about it, is in deep sea angler fishes. When deep sea angler fishes were first described, they could only find males. They could only find females for the longest time. And so when they were first described, there's many more species of deep sea angler fishes that there are now. The reason being is that the male is much smaller than the female. And so when the female is ready to reproduce, she releases pheromones into the water. And males then follow that pheromone trail to find the female. And what he does is he then bites onto her abdomen, and in time, her skin overgrows him, and he basically becomes a bag of gonads for her. Let's see if I have a web page up. Maybe it'll allow me to bring up a web page. Share screen. I don't think it's going to share. No, not males when it happened last time. So he becomes basically I want to say a parasite, but not really a parasite because she's getting something out of this. So she only needs to show that she's reproductively ready once for a male to find her. And after that, she has a ready-made set of gonads for her anytime she's ready to reproduce. So it's a very efficient way of reproduction in a system where you may come across another member of your species once in your lifetime at most, because the deep sea is so vast. So it's a way of having no mate choice, basically. First one, first served, first come, first served on that female. There are cases when there have been multiple males who have attached to females. Now, whether they utilize both males' gonads, I'm not sure, but I'm sure they do. And it's probably simultaneously. They're not going to choose which male they're going to use at that point. So that is mate choice. Let's talk about another system in reproduction, and that is sex changing, hermaphroditism. Now, there are two ways, if you're a fish, of being hermaphrodite. The first way is simultaneous hermaphrodite. In other words, they have both sexes simultaneously active in the same individual at the same time. There are only about 10% or so of all hermaphrodites are simultaneous hermaphrodites. And most of these occur in the surrounded group, which is the sea basses, and the hypnopidae, which are the deep sea tripod fish. They, about 90% of all those simultaneous hermaphrodites occur within those two families of fishes. There are no freshwater fishes that show simultaneous hermaphrodites. And for the most part, if you are a simultaneous hermaphrodite, you are not going to fertilize your own eggs. You're going to need another individual to come together for this reproductive event. Now, in extreme cases, we're talking extreme cases, there can be self-fertilization, but those are the rare exceptions within a species. Because to take the energy to produce both pairs of gonads is a lot. You might as well just produce parthenogenetic eggs that we'll talk about a little bit later and produce clones of yourself. So it can occur, but it normally just occurs when the population levels plummets to almost nobody. Yes, there are, in fact, 3 killifish that are hermaphrodites. So very good, Jennifer Weaver. So most hermaphrodites are going to be sequential hermaphrodites, meaning they are one sex followed by the other sex. They won't be the same sex at the same time, or both sexes at the same time. And there's 2 ways of doing this. One is called protandry. Proto meaning first. Tandry refers to maleness. So they are males first, followed by the female sex second. The other is protogyny, which is proto first. Gyne referred to females, gynecologists. So protogyny is that they are female first, followed by males. In all of the sequential hermaphrodites, there are only 13 freshwater species of hermaphrodites. That is only 3% of all the fish known, all the fish species known to be hermaphrodites occur in freshwater. We have two cichlids, a tilapian and a Malawi cichlid. There are killifish. There are some freshwater gobies and some other rare groups of fish. So only 13 out of the 460 or so species of hermaphrodites out there. So most of them are going to be in the marine system, with a majority of them being in coral reef systems. Now, this is a joke, so take this as a joke. How I explain hermaphroditism and sequential protogynous and protandric hermaphrodism is like this. If you're a protandric hermaphrodite, that means you start off life as a male, and when you're strong and robust as a young male or a young individual, you are male. When you're old and haggard, you then become a female. Conversely, if you are protogynous, when you're young and immature, you are a female. When you're strong and mature, you become a male. Now, that's a joke, okay? Yes, a joke. Call me a sexist, but that is just a joke. Normally what happens is there's probably going to be a size advantage here. A size advantage in that the larger the female is, the more eggs she has. So if you're a small male and only producing 1 egg, 2 eggs, it's probably best to wait till you are large enough to produce an overabundance of eggs. So if you have the ability to sex change, you're going to start off life as a male because male sperm is very cheap. And so you're able to try to get copulations as a male. If you fertilize 5, 6 eggs, it's better than having only 1 egg fertilized by another male. So in that case, it's going to be a size advantage. If you are protogyny, you're going to be a female first, then a male. It may be that you have to reach a maximum size in order to compete for reproduction. So if you have the ability to become a hermaphrodite or your species is a hermaphrodite, it's best to be a female first because you may never reach that size threshold to become a reproductively active male. Now, you know, the size advantage model was developed back in the 80s by a professor at UC Santa Barbara, Robert Rush Warner. You know, there's some opposing viewpoints. You know, if you're in a group of organisms, let's say clownfish, how do you determine who's going to become a male, who's going to become a female? So we know clownfish are protandric. They start off like males. In most cases, the female has a harem of males. So the largest, oldest individual is a female. Then from there, she has a harem of males that the alpha male of that group, when the female dies, he becomes the female. The next one in line, the next strongest one of the haremic males, he becomes a reproductively active male. No other male is reproductively active. So it may be pheromones that are keeping them non-reproductive. It may be interactions between the pair that keeps them non-reproductive. Back in the late 80s, I actually worked on a project. I was a principal investigator of a project looking at how bachelorette females get new males. In the part of Red Sea I was working at, the clownfish didn't live in large harems. They only lived in pairs. So if one of the individuals dies, how are they able to get a new pair? Because there's no subordinates who are there to work up the ladder, so to speak. And so what normally happened is that you had individuals from other anemones come into those territories. So bachelor males from other sea anemones. The problem is it's dangerous to travel in a coral reef for a little fish. And so it seldom happened. You became a bachelorette, you stayed a bachelorette. So, moral of the story, you live in small populations, don't kill off your husband. But hermaphrodism has developed many different times in the fish world. Probably 50, 60 times. All these different families probably in some cases developed hermaphroditism on their own. So we had separate evolution occurring through all those groups. Probably the strangest type of reproduction we have out there is this idea of unisexuality, where you have all female populations. In this case, what the females are doing is they are, in some cases, producing eggs parthenogenetically. In other words, genetics background for everybody. We all carry what's called diploid chromosomes. One pair of chromosomes from your mother, one pair of chromosomes from your father. Each one is called a haploid cell because they have half the genetic information. When reproduction occurs, they form a cell that has the normal complement of chromosomes. In our cases, 23 pairs or 46. So that's normally how reproduction occurs. In the case of unisexual or parthenogenetic individuals, they are going to produce eggs that don't have half of the genetic information. They're going to have the full complement of chromosomes in that egg. So in this case, they don't need to be fertilized by another individual in order for that egg to develop into a new individual. Now, those individuals are going to be clones of the mother, but most of the time, that's perfectly fine. When you're going to produce clones, more likely you're going to live in a very stable environment. The reason why you want to have sexual reproduction is because it brings about as many combinations of offspring, genetic combinations of offspring, because you're unsure of what type of environment those offspring are going to develop in. So you're hedging your bet. In the case where you have a stable environment, the environment doesn't change very much or doesn't change at all, it's best to make exact copies of yourself. Because if you survive in the environment, you know your offspring are going to survive in the environment. So these individuals produce parthenogenetically. Now, one of the fish that has been brought up many times on especially Chattanooga Ed's streams is the idea of the Amazon molly, Picelia formosa. It is called the Amazon molly, but it's found in Mexico and Central America. Amazon mollies develop through a process or have young through a process called gynogenesis. So it's a very special type of parthenogenesis. And what Amazon mollies do is they need to reproduce with a very close relative. So in other words, they can't reproduce with a guppy. They can't reproduce with a platy. They have to reproduce with a very closely related molly species. And what happens is during that reproductive event, the sperm itself is not incorporated into the egg, but what it does, it triggers the development of those eggs into zygotes. So the sperm is only used as a triggering mechanism. If there's no reproductive event, those eggs don't develop further. They stay in a diapause. In other words, a resting stage. So you need that embryogenesis to occur. For it to occur, you need the gametes from a closely related molly species. So that's gynogenesis. There is another process called hybridogenesis. And let's go to here. Hybridogenesis occurs in another group of Poeciliidae, the Poeciliopsis group. This is a group from Mexico. Here to your left, we have a male Poeciliopsis monoca. On the right, we have Poeciliopsis lucida. There are two different species of fish. When they hybridize, they produce what's called a complex called Poeciliopsis monaca lucida. And what happens is the females themselves, this hybrid female, has to reproduce with a close relative. So it normally produces with the males of Poeciliopsis lucida. It forms what's called a triploid. So the female is producing diploid eggs, normal number of chromosome eggs. She then is fertilized by that male. That zygote is a triploid, or right at the beginning of development, it is a triploid. But what happens during that embryogenesis, during the development of the young, all the male chromosomes are excluded, are taken out, just rejected by the embryo. And what you have left with is what's born is a clone of the female. So it's a much more drawn out process. There is true fertilization occurring, but through that development, the female offspring rejects all the male's contribution. So it becomes, in effect, a clone of the female. This probably occurred because, again, of a bottleneck, a population number that was greatly decreased. The females had no other males to reproduce with, so they found a close relative, a closely related fish species in order to undertake reproduction. So those are some of the strange things that happen in fish reproduction. Again, these are things that are only found in the wild. There are some cases with the hermaphrodites, like one of the sea bass ceranids is the anthias. Anthias are becoming more and more popular in the aquarium trade. Bright, some people call them the ocean goldfish. So they're all, so they're found all along the reef, probably 20 different species. In captivity, or in the wild, they are protogynous. They start off life female, turn into males. And in fact, some of the work that was done in the Red Sea at the same time I was there showed that one male can occupy up to 8 females. If there's more than that in terms of females, then one of those females changes into a male. It takes a few weeks for them to physiologically change. So there's a color change. There is a regression of the female gonads and a development of the male gonads. There is finnage changes. The fins get much longer. They become a lighter tail in the males. So although this takes 2 or 3 weeks to occur, the behavior of the individual changes now. So that female then takes on the male behaviors, goes out in front of the group, defends the group, even though it takes time for physiologically for them to become a male. And so when you bring these in the lab, the terminal males, what was thought to be the terminal males, some of those males will change back into females. Now, in some species, you can have bidirectional sex change going back and forth, but in Amphius, it's never been shown in wild fish. Now, you would have to follow individuals, and it's very difficult to follow individual fish on a reef unless you mark all of them. And in the case of Amphius, as soon as you go up to Amphius, they go straight into the reef. So it's difficult to do that. So does it occur in the wild? Maybe. We just don't know. Can it occur in captivity? Yes. And it may be an artifact of captivity. So again, captivity does strange things to the fish. They don't always physiologically act or behaviorally act like they would in the native environments. So just because it occurs in the aquarium doesn't necessarily mean it can occur in the wild. So with that, any questions on anything, any fish? Hola, Chris, Leonardo, Chucupiando, Mediano. Hi, Chris. Chris is the son of the resident director there in Peru. ¿Dónde está Fernandito? So thank you, Matt. If you like, hit the like button. If not, that's okay with me. Again, as a reminder, Saturday, 8th of April, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, we will be having the raffle. Well, yes, he's doing a lot of stuff without a wrench. So I guess he should get a wrench, maybe. Oh, Fernando. Hola, ¿cómo está? So we have both Fernando and Chris. What is the raffle final count? Elishan, we had 120 raffle tickets sold. So that pays for the trip for sure. Pays for everything that needs to be done in Peru with a little bit of extra. So again, our goal was to sell as many as we could. If we sold 500, that would have been great. We sold 120. That's good. We're happy with that. We're happy to be able to make available a trip to the Fish Fam. I know last year we had Alexander Lerner from Germany, who wasn't part of Fish Fam. He just listens to my live stream, used to listen to our Saturday morning talk with the experts, and that's how he heard about it. He bought 2 tickets this year, so if he wins again, it's all by chance. But I would say 95% of the tickets were sold to Fish Fam people. So it'd be great to have a Fish Fam member win the raffle, go on the trip, and then come back and, do a live stream. Do a live stream there. We can do a live stream together while we're there. If it's someone with a channel, even better. So who knows? If you did miss the raffle, okay, let's say you missed the raffle, there could be a chance to enter the raffle. Maybe have to talk to the board of directors about if you make a donation of 50 or more in the next few days, send me an email saying you made a donation, and I'll talk to the board of directors and we'll see about entering your name into the raffle. I can make it happen. But if not, that's okay. We always accept donations, $5 donation, $1 donation. It all goes into paying Fernando and Chris their measly old salary we pay them. So Cosmo has a question. I have a question with respect to sex determination in annual killifish. There is this legend that if you grow two fry together, you will most probably have a pair. Is there any data to back that up? As far as I know, there is no data to back that up. Now, we know sex determination in fish is not pure XY chromosomes like it is in humans. It is, there's temperature can determine sex. pH can determine sex. But if we're talking about a fish, two eggs that are in the same pool, more likely the environmental conditions are going to be the same. So I have never heard that. I'm actually looking down right now at the paper that came out in 2020 that had all the lists all the cyprinodontiforms, all the killifishes that were shown to be hermaphrodites. We have Cryptolebius marmoratus, that's the Gulf killifish, the killifish along the Atlantic coast. Cryptolebius hermaphroditus, with a name like hermaphroditus, you would expect that to be a hermaphrodite. And then Cryptolebius ocellatus. Those are all simultaneous hermaphrodites. Plus in Pisoliids, it says the Xiphophorus helleri is also a sex changer. They are a protogynous sex changer. In other words, they start off life female and then change into male. So that is an old wives' tale that has not been shown to be true. So whether or not it's true, that's debatable. But there's a lot of these wives' tales, so to speak, in the aquarium hobby that people believe that there's no evidence out there, or no evidence as of this point. So that is a very good question. Any other questions in the remaining 3 or 4 minutes we have left until I have to go do water changes? So Wednesday afternoons after this live stream is my water change time. No more? No más applesauce? Okay. I hope everybody has a good week. Hug your families, do your water changes, feed your fish, and hope to see you on Saturday for our giveaway live stream. Hopefully you'll be there. We'll cheer on the winner, or we'll boo the winner. You'll see it live here. Enter the names into the Wheel of Fortune, and where it stops, nobody knows. But good luck to all of you who bought tickets. With that, I bid you a fond adieu.